Kerala, a state on the southern coast of India renowned for its natural beauty, has evolved into one of the country's most vibrant IT destinations. With the highest human development index in India, Kerala offers a rare combination of exceptional talent, progressive governance, excellent research prowess, and unmatched quality of life. The journey began in 1989, when a visionary chief minister visited the Apple facility in the US and brought back the inspiration of Silicon Valley. That spark led to the birth of Technopark in Thiruvananthapuram, one of Asia's largest and greenest IT parks. That momentum gave rise to InfoPark in Kochi and Cyberpark in Calicut and other satellite centers, creating three powerful IT hubs that anchor the state's digital economy. Today, over 1,200 IT companies, including corporate giants, global capability centers, and homegrown startups, operate across the IT parks, employing more than 150,000 highly skilled professionals. They also stand as a beacon of inclusivity, with more than 40% female representation in the tech workforce, well above the national average of 29%.
In India, we formed the company in 2017 in Trivandrum. We aim for about 200 people in about 5 years, but we could grow from 0 to 1,500 people with the availability of talent, high retention rate, and the quality of people. If you look into it, we have over 50% of the employees currently are coming out from the campus, which is most prominently from Kerala. So this means we can get the right talents, right resources and infrastructure, which really made us successful in Kerala for a global company.
Kerala is the first Indian state to ensure digital inclusion through KFON, a state-wide fiber optic network delivering high-speed internet connectivity. With significantly lower operational cost, supported by seamless road, rail, air connectivity, and even India's first water metro, Kerala makes doing business both strategic and sustainable. Ranked as one of the best performing startup ecosystems in India, Kerala supports over 6,500 tech startups and 45,000 innovators through a well-connected network of incubators, accelerators, and fab labs.
With a lot of incubators that span across the state and a vibrant startup ecosystem, Kerala Startup Mission offers a unique opportunity for the corporates across the globe to come and run their corporate innovation programs. We have an emerging technology hub and a technology innovation zone where we host a super fab lab and a GPU cluster where people will be able to do cutting-edge work in AI and machine learning.
With transformative projects like the Emerging Technology Hub, Digital Science Park, and Quad, Kerala is more than an IT destination. Kerala is today a launchpad for global aspirations, powered by innovation, inclusivity, and impact, all of which welcome global leaders to come and experience Kerala, the finest place to live and work.
It's also God's own country, you know. So for those of you who have never been to Kerala, I recommend a visit just to see how their place is. With that said, it's such an honor and a privilege to be here with Mr. Sambasiva sir and Mr. Shibulal sir. It's a privilege and an honor to just stand here and moderate the session. A few years ago, if you had heard GCCs, most people would have thought of the Gulf countries that decide oil prices. And a few years down the road, where we are sitting right now, GCCs have made a name for itself. It's the global capability centers, and those centers have established themselves so strongly within India and the world that you have countries wanting to replicate India's success. So it's certainly a privilege to be representing the GCC world and standing here or sitting here basically to have this discussion. One of the interesting things that has happened is In the year 2005 is when Fidelity came to India, and we were considered late into the market because by the time there was a host of different larger players that had already established themselves. So for us to come to India was considered, in 2005 was considered late. 20 years later, we've grown to about 5,000 people. And just recently, I was talking to a company called BDO. It's one of the largest accounting firms right after the Big Four. And they came to India only 4.5 years ago. And in 4.5 years, they went from 0 to 3,300 employees. So this is here to stay. GCCs are coming in by the droves. I mean, as with all ramp-ups that we typically see, you call it the hockey stick expansion. You know, you tend to start, there's some level of adoption, and then there's an inflection point when things start to take off. And we've seen that happen, especially with GCCs. And now, literally, there isn't a day that goes by without you hearing of a new GCCs that has come into India and their plans for India. So on that note, I'd like to start this session here with just an understanding of just the policy, right? An industry that forms itself doesn't happen like out of thin air. There's a lot of foundational, say, policies and an ecosystem that helps build up the capability of an industry itself. The maturing of an industry also comes from that. So the first question that I have is to Mr. Sambasavasa. The question that I have is regarding Kerala State's, say, policies that you have to drive GCCs into the state, one. And then I'll also follow it up with a second question, which is, with respect to the resources that you find there, are you typically finding resources that are essentially from Kerala, wanting to work in Kerala, or are you able to drive in talent from all over India to come and work in Kerala itself?
Thank you, George. First of all, I would like to thank MachineCon Summit organizers for giving such kind of an opportunity for us to represent Kerala. And I also would like to thank Sri Shibulal, our chairman of High Power IT Committee. That speaks about the interest that Kerala diaspora takes in actually promoting Kerala IT industry. I would like to thank him. Yeah. So coming back to your question, so Kerala is focusing a lot right now on promoting GCC in the state. Very soon, we are going to come up with our own GCC policy, which is going to be fairly competitive. But it's not just about offering incentives and infrastructure. What I want to say is Kerala has a lot more to offer. Kerala has wonderful infrastructure that is actually expanding like anything in the recent past. And more importantly, we have extremely highly talented skill force, which according to me is vital, which according to me GCC is really considered as vital. So I feel that Kerala has a very good strategic advantage in being a good, desirable destination for GCCs. Coming to your second question, so definitely there are a lot of, already about 40 odd GCCs are there. So what I understand is definitely there are a lot of people who are working in Kerala. So a lot of resources who are working in Kerala, and they are fairly happy. And of course, a lot of Malayali workforce also exists in Kerala, no doubt about it. But let us not have any opinion that only Malayali workforce exists in Kerala. No, absolutely no. We have companies like IBM and many other companies who are positioned in Kerala, and many outsiders, many people from outside states are working very happily. And they are quite happy. Recently, I interacted with them. They are quite happy with the kind of social infrastructure that exists in Kerala and every nook and corner of the state. The best of the schools, best of the hospitals. And the Human Development Index is absolutely, it's one of the best in the country. And the quality of life, they're talking about quality of life which they get in Kerala. And the quality of climate which they get in Kerala. It's quite amazing that people who are working in Kerala from other states are talking about this. They really value this. So yeah, so Kerala wants to actually promote all these things. At the same time, we are focusing a lot on infrastructure expansion, especially creation of more and more tech space. That's our criteria. And of course, we have been focusing a lot over decades on creation of talent in the state. And that is for everyone to see. right? Yeah, so these are the areas of focus for Kerala State to attract more and more GCCs.
Right. Now, are you also seeing that from a stickiness standpoint, especially in Kerala? And I've heard this many times over, but so are you seeing that there is a lot more resources who are willing to stay and work for the company longer as compared to when you're in a hypermarket where suddenly there's 10 other companies that are vying for that same talent? Are you?
I am given to understand, in fact, I had a discussion with stakeholders recently. I'm given to understand the attrition rate in Kerala is really low. Really low. So this is a fact. I think it can be studied. So attrition rate is very low and the workforce is quite stable. And I'm sure GCCs value this, definitely. So what is the reason for that? The reason for that is, I would sense that, people, our workforce must be really happy working with Kerala. Kerala ecosystem changed a lot. And more importantly, the culture is so conducive for work, number two. And more importantly, I somehow believe the environment is so good, okay, the climate is so good, so definitely people prefer to stay there. So attrition is quite low, that's my observation.
No, and that sounds right, because I had my wife who was in Kerala quite recently, and she managed to do 20 things in one day, and she said, I could possibly not have done this if I was in Bangalore, because of just how long it would take for you to commute from one point to the other.
George, I want to add one more point on this. See, now, Kerala has invested over decades a lot on education and health. So that is quite evident in the workforce, the talent which is available in Kerala. So whatever demand for jobs, whatever jobs that are created in Kerala, there are so many people who are up for grabs. In fact, there are so many Malayali diaspora in various countries in very high positions, respectable positions in various digital companies. We are given to understand, we conducted Loka Kerala Sabha and many such programs. We are given to understand many of them want to come back and want investment. And many professionals also would like to come back to Kerala provided there are good opportunities. So I'm sure, so this is a very good opportunity for GCCs also definitely to come to Kerala and avail this talent force which is available in Kerala.
All right. Coming to Mr. Shibilal, sir, quick question for you on just, I know GCCs are taking off. You've seen the expansion of essentially Infosys going from 0 to upwards of 300,000 employees. I mean, there is probably not a single GCC out there that can even aspire to be in the ballpark. In that context, what do you see from a policy standpoint that the government should do to facilitate and drive? I know there's a GCC policy that's coming in from the central government. A lot of state governments are coming with their own policies. Is there something that you believe that is needed for this expansion to continue?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As George said, I think India is becoming the GCC capital for the world. With about 1,400 GCCs and about 40 being in India and about 1.9 million people employed in this sector, truly it is in the hockey stick situation where it will continue to grow. So when I think about policies which we need to take up for continued expansion of GCCs, I see three important things. I think number one is talent. In US, this when you buy a house, there is a saying location, location, location. So when I think of GCCs, it is talent, talent, talent. Now, India produced a lot of talent. In fact, that is one of the reasons GCCs took off in India. But the quality of talent, the skills which we need to build in that talent is very different today than what it was many years back. For example, today you need talent which is conversant in emerging technologies, in entrepreneurship, in innovation, in critical thinking. So that means one of the policy direction we should have is to create education institutions which will create such talent which is employable on day one. That is point number one. Second point which comes to my mind is infrastructure. I think infrastructure is very, very key for GCC to expand. Whether it is hard infrastructure, whether it is soft infrastructure. For example, connectivity, roads, IT parks, those kinds of hard infrastructure. Then you have soft infrastructure, which will create quality of life, education institutions, hospitals, even entertainment centers. So these two kinds of infrastructure becomes extremely important for expansion of GCCs. And the third point is ecosystem. I think GCCs today demand a very a strong ecosystem of innovation where they can collaborate with startups, whether they can collaborate with academic institutions, where they can do joint research, whether they can do joint innovation, they can do inside, outside in acquisition of innovation and things like that. So when I look at Kerala, to some extent Kerala has addressed many of these things. If you look at talent, for example, Kerala created the ICT Academy many years back, focused on creating employability. They created the Digital University, which is purely focused on digital technologies. If you look at infrastructure, out of 2 lakh people who work in GCs in Kerala, 1.5 lakh today work in IT parks. So Kerala invested in IT parks. In fact, rural development in Kerala is a very unique thing. For example, Kerala created something called LISP or something, which where they created rural innovation centers across the state, whereby they not only enabled the innovation in the cities, but they enabled innovation in the rural areas. And when you look at the last point, ecosystem, Kerala is a very strong startup ecosystem. Not only that, I think the universities are now coming forward to do joint research and development, especially with the specialized universities like the Digital University of Kerala. So these are the 2-3 things which comes to my mind.
As a follow-up on talent, given what's happening with, say, Gen AI, some of the solutions that are coming out there, do you believe that we need to rethink how talent needs to be trained, prepared for what is coming down the pipe? Or how do you see the future in the next maybe 3, 4, 5 years given the current circumstances with Gen AI?
So I think we need to attack the talent problem in multiple dimensions. Number one, I think we need to start early. Because I think critical thinking, curiosity, innovation, entrepreneurship, these are skills which are there in our mind, in our basic nature. But to some extent, we have to make sure that they get amplified through our education system. We cannot just come to the end and say we will train somebody on entrepreneurship or innovation or critical thinking. This needs to become part of the curriculum. So the number one thing which you need to focus is on curriculum itself. Making sure that the curriculum is versatile, it is diverse, it has optionality to it, it has elective subjects which people can take. So that is one aspect when I look at building talent. Second is capacity building, because to create such a talent, you need to have capacity. That means you need to train your teachers, you need to train your education institutions, you need to train your government officials, including the entire chain, to make sure that these kinds of thinking gets into the education system, right? These kinds of thinking gets into the education system. And the last point is industry participation, right? Industry has a role to play. They have a role to play in this ecosystem, making sure that you provide internships, making sure that you work with the education institutions to modernize the curriculum, making sure that you do advocacy about emerging technologies, about creating employability in colleges itself. So I think that future of talent in my mind is very good because we produce 1 million engineers, but the direction of talent has to move towards very versatile curriculum, building capacity in our education institutions, and lastly, having the industry participate in the education system so that the people who are coming out of the education system are ready for tomorrow's world.
So on that note, I'd like to switch over to Sambasiva sir. And the question that I had for you was, today when you look at GCCs typically tend to get driven, or direction is provided by the parent organization for the most part. The parent organization, so the holding company. And usually that's where direction comes to the GCCs on how they need to operate and things like that. Many times they're quite conservative with decision making. And when I say conservative, when new technology comes in. Let's say Gen AI as a solution comes in. There's always an apprehension that the technology is going to be a problem for the business. Some of their trade secrets may become public, things of that nature. And so, which is why you tend to find a lot of these startups are a little bit more aggressive. They're willing to engage and basically build a solution. What, from a Kerala state standpoint, is being done to basically allow startups to engage with some of these GCCs to use some of that solutions that they've indigenously developed, or even do like a co-creation type of engagement where some of the GCCs can tap into something like that to fast track their maturity?
Yes, George. So it's a right point. And as you are aware, Kerala's startup ecosystem is one of the strongest ecosystem in India. I think Kerala is consistently ranked amongst, I think, one of the first states in having a very strong startup ecosystem. And it has not happened over one day. So it has actually happened through consistent efforts. We are, like as Shibu sir has told, we are starting quite early. We are promoting entrepreneurship right in schools. In fact, we have a program called KITE, through which IT is introduced as a subject. And thereafter, we have put up smart classrooms in all schools. And now we are focusing on establishing innovation labs in schools. So what I want to say is, we are starting quite early, and startup ecosystem has become really robust starting from schools and colleges. In schools, there are innovation labs. In colleges, there are IEDCs, investment, entrepreneurship development corporate cells. So, and we have Kerala Startup Mission, which is working to actually further incubate these startups. Startup Mission is doing good work in coordinating the engagement between GCCs and startups. We have quite some programs, quite some tracks going on. The first one is about investment track. So promotion of GCCs to invest into startups. That is number one. Number two, you rightly spoke about innovation track. When GCCs have some tough problems, instead of they actually taking risk, they can actually engage with startups. So we are collaborating this coordination between GCCs and startups for having a co-innovation and collaboration between GCCs and startups. That is one track which is going on. Second one is we are promoting acquisitions of startups by GCCs. Whenever GCCs find some startups are really doing good, if there is some talented startups, we are promoting that also as one track. Third track is about investment promotion, wherein startups investing or GCCs investing into startups. So these are the tracks which are, in fact, we are promoting CSR contribution also. In fact, GCCs are contributing their CSR opportunities which are available to promote startups in actually taking up various solutions. So these are the various tracks which are put in place by Startup Mission to ensure collaboration between GCCs and startups.
When GCCs invest through even CSR, do they get equity out of the solution that is coming out? Or, I mean, what type of an engagement is it typically?
There is a fund of funds program also of Startup Mission, so through which GCCs get to have equity also in startups. So that track is also there, and the CSR track is also there. So CSR is primarily focused on startups which are focusing on social entrepreneurship. That is what we are focusing at this point of time. Otherwise, there is fund of funds program which is going very good, wherein we are promoting venture capital promotion to startups, and GCCs are actually contributing and taking equity in startups as well. That track is also live.
Okay, so coming to an interesting topic, which is where, again, training talent and skilling them up to where we need them to be. I know Infosys did an outstanding job with their university. And it's one of those things that, I mean, when we sit from the outside and look at what Infosys has done, it's aspirational for us. Because you think about it, to have a university operate and manage just your own core requirements is unique. Because none of us have the scale to possibly get to that kind of a engagement model. But with that said, at what stage of a GCC's journey do you believe that we should engage or create an equivalent type of model? And where do you see real value coming from something like that, and based on the scale?
So, I think scale is, scale is not an accident. It is a very purposeful move to build scale, right? I remember Infosys going through this journey of building scale. And when we were 10,000 people, I remember this very well, when there was 10,000 people, there is this old saying that culture will lead strategy for lunch. Culture will lead strategy for lunch. That means the most important thing is to have the organization to have a culture, a value system. And until 10,000 people, the Infosys value system was very tacit. It was a folklore, right? Everyone used to look at Mr. Murthy or me or somebody else. They will follow the track. And organizations used to run on heroes, right? There will be heroes in every pocket which will create wonderful projects, wonderful customer experience, wonderful scale. But scale is purposeful in nature, right? So by the time we were 10,000 people, we figured out that we need to move away from tacit to explicit in all aspects of the organization, right? In all aspects of the organization. So to some extent, Infosys started out being explicit in its culture and values. That was the first thing we did. We predominantly codified what it means to be an Infosian. So whatever was tacit until that point, we codified. It was a collective endeavor. It was not done from top down. It was a collective endeavor. So that is one most important thing to build scale, having that clear, explicit culture and values. Then came structures. So Infosys built structures which were, in my mind, modular in nature. Not one behemoth, right? It was modular in nature. It was loosely coupled but highly aligned. That's how I used to talk about it. They were highly aligned structures but loosely coupled. So that allowed entrepreneurship, that allowed experimentation, that allowed competition, that allowed measurement. So that was the second stage of scale. And the third one, of course, was making systems and processes. What we call the standard SOPs, the systems and processes, and the fourth one was technology. So we created this stack. The values and culture on the top, structure below that, highly aligned, loosely coupled. Then came the systems and processes, and then came the technology to support all of this. That's how, in my mind, the scale happened. There is a lot more to it than this. But the universities, in the case of Infosys, happened early on. So the first batch of people whom we took, I remember Mr. Murthy training them. There were only 6 people. But it was the start of the university. So it was never left to when we were 100,000 people or something like that. But the Mysore University got established in 1999 when we were just about probably 10,000 people. So, but that was a different time and place. Remember this. Today, I am hoping that the graduates who are coming out of our colleges are much more employment ready than what they were before. May not be true.
Not true.
May not be true. But at least at that point in time, we felt that we need to have the internal university. But it was not only the university. People talk about the university, but remember, Infosys had a very strong leadership institute in place. So to create all of this, the culture, the value system, the structure, the systems and process, the technology, and to drive change management, you need leaders, very good leaders. So the university, in a way, was the feeder to the Infosys system, and then the leadership development was the enabler for scale, right? All of this work together. So when you ask this question, at what point you should have a university, it is not having an Infosys kind of university, but I think you need to have a very, very strong capacity building program, whether it is in technology, whether it is in domain, whether it is in entrepreneurship, whether it is in leadership. That should happen somewhere around 10,000 people at least. That is my view on this.
Yeah, and then we'll typically tend to find that, especially in a GCC, you have each GCC coming from sometimes a different industry altogether. So there's uniqueness of that industry and the domain that needs to be trained and taught. And that's not something that we can just go to market. Like the industry that we are in, we can't go to market and hire somebody straight off the street, even though they come with, say, an engineering or a economics or a finance degree, doesn't mean that they are a plug and play from an industry standpoint. So there's a lot of training that we need to provide from a domain standpoint for that scaling up to be done. So at every one of the GCCs that is doing success or successfully operating, this is part and parcel. But in terms of the scale, of course, at a much smaller scale than what possibly Infosys would do. There's an interesting topic that has come up in the recent past with GCCs, which is what they call the digital twin. And what the digital twin is largely where you have resources at leadership levels operating in India, and those same resources basically operating at a global capacity as well. And essentially they are starting to identify, some of these leaders who basically don't just operate for India and operate just the GCC, but they're strategic leaders, right? They are running a portion of the business for the parent organization itself. Now, many a times when we look into the details of it, we've had our own share of leaders who've moved from India, played a global role. But invariably what we've seen is that many a times it's very either tactical or operational in nature of the job that they're going to do, or it is the person who's so enterprising that he or she's gone up to do something like that. How does a GCC, and I know this is probably not something that we discussed a whole lot before, how does a GCC identify and create that as part of that ecosystem itself, where the parent organization looks at GCC for supplying that leadership quotient to basically drive some of their own, like, say, business development or, say, strategy for the parent organization itself, not just for the GCC? Is there a yardstick or a rule book that, at least from an Infosys story, that we can take away, that we can use?
I reflect back on the conversation I had with you and somebody else in the morning. I met probably somebody from Whirlpool. I think he was telling me that he's responsible for global, he has global responsibilities, no more only India responsibilities. I think it is a normal life cycle which will happen, right? When GCC started, they were mostly back-end operations. What was the menial job was moved here, but today you own products, you own the product life cycle, you own multiple other capabilities for the organization. I think one of the most important things people look for is entrepreneurship. So in your case, for example, we were talking about your center is a profit center, not a cost center.
Correct.
Right? That's a very important differentiation, right?
Correct.
Because the moment you move away from being a cost center to a profit center, you have to be innovative, you have to be entrepreneurial, you need to be willing to compete. So that puts the GCC in a completely different space. Now, every GCC may not get there overnight, but that is the journey you need to take. And then you become globally relevant. The relevancy becomes very important, right? If you are owning revenue and profit lines, then you become relevant to the organization, right? Then you get noticed.
Right.
And that recognition leads to opportunities, right? And so creating that recognition is very important. That you are willing to take risks, you are willing to be innovative, you are willing to not only you are willing to compete,
right,
on an equal footing.
Right.
I think that is very important, and that leads to recognition and opportunity.
And that's a very valid point, because the minute we switched our model from being a cost center model to a profit center model, the respect that you had when they looked at you changed. It was no longer you managing a group of, say, 100 or 1,000 or 5,000 people. Suddenly you're driving revenue for the parent organization. You're looking at it from a marketplace standpoint and saying, what do we need to do to win in the marketplace? And as soon as they start to see that you're seeing that and you're operating that way, suddenly their respect for you changes, and suddenly you start to realize that they're willing to open up doors that they previously would not have. So certainly something that aspiring GCC should aspire for is to basically try and get to where you can drive some of the revenue for the parent organization. I know we are down to the last 10 minutes. I know we are going to try and take some audience questions also. But before we end, one quick, say, see into the future kind of question. If, as we sit today, based on what you see, in the next 5 years, where do you see the Indian GCC market, given some of the I would say, the headwinds that are coming? And the headwinds, in my opinion, would be things such as Gen AI coming in, and that's starting to maybe do a lot of the coding on their own. The requirement for resources going down. So those are some of the headwinds. The tailwinds is that there is a host of different companies that have yet to come to India, and they've realized that they're late to this game. And so now you're seeing that every one of them wants to set up a shop quickly so that they can be there when this takes off. A lot of the projects itself, especially Gen AI type of projects, are being run out of India itself because you have resources available, you have talent available, you have domain experience to basically help you make that switch over, run skunkwork project. We've run a recent project which has seen tremendous results. Given those circumstances, what do you see in the next 5 years? And same question to both of you. What do you see in the next 5 years happening in the GCC world?
Yeah, George, in India perspective, I predict or I wish India will move from a global leader of GCC, providing services, to a preferred destination for R&D development, IP creation, and also technology development. I hope India will move into these areas, and Indian GCCs also move into these areas. That's what I wish that will happen. I would like to talk about Kerala, what is expected from Kerala. I think a video is shown at the beginning of this chat. So I hope all of you have seen the changes that are happening. Like, I'm sure at least the impression about Kerala must be different in the past. But what we see right now, Kerala is totally different. So what is interesting about Kerala is, now across the country, Tier 1 cities definitely are saturated for GCCs. I'm sure GCCs are looking for expansion into Tier 2 cities. I believe Kerala offers a real good solution for this. Kerala as such offers one rural-urban continuum. Kerala is like one networked large city, and more importantly, one networked large green city in India. Okay, that is my opinion. So which means across the Kerala, okay, now National Highway is running as a spine connecting all cities and towns in Kerala. You are seeing the changes that are happening. So because of National Highway connecting cities and towns, and infrastructure like Millennium, the deep sea port coming up, and we investing in industrial corridors, I feel that Kerala is on a very high growth trajectory. So next 5 years or next decade, I hope, I seriously believe, because changes are for us to see. We are already seeing the changes. In last few years itself, we are seeing the changes. I feel Kerala is going to be a very, on a growth trajectory. And GCCs have to tap it. And we are also focusing a lot on building infrastructure, number one. When I say building infrastructure, we are focusing on creation of more and more government space and also creation of private-led tech space. And we have put up Kerala Fiber Optic Network project, which takes high-end digital connectivity to nook and corner of the state. So which means infrastructure is in place. And we want to focus more on sector-specific industries also. While we attract more and more GCC inflow from Tier 1 cities, we have our own strengths, like medical technology and educom and the space industry as well, automotive, and also all emerging technologies. Kerala definitely has strategic edge in all these sectors. We want to focus on these sectors, and we want to pull global leaders in Kerala as well. So this is our strategy, and I believe in next few years, Kerala will definitely be a preferable global destination for GCCs. Definitely credible destination. Kerala is going to become a credible destination because of all this investment which has happened over time, and also because of decades-long work that happened in development of human resources.
So from 40 GCCs to 100 GCCs possibly?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Actually, I should expand on what we just talked about Kerala. In fact, one of the reasons I am here is I am the vice chair to the HPIC, which Kerala government set up many years back. I was the chair before, now CM is the chair. I'm the vice chair, and there are 2-3 people here, IT strategists. Kerala set up this specific cell to provide support for GCCs. They created and the difference of this cell is not run by the government, it is run by the industry. So the entire HPIC consists of industry leaders. So for example, myself, VK, all of us come from the industry. And the cell itself actually worked very closely with the industry. So ease of doing business in Kerala has been is an item of conversation, and I think it has tremendously changed over the last 7-8 years with all these initiatives. So today, most GCCs, when they come to Kerala, there is somebody who is, there is a single window person who is willing to talk to them, encourage them, give all the support. So I think it is very, very important to make sure that. So one of the things I did not talk about when I talked about the policy was the ease of doing business part. I think Kerala is really in the forefront of making sure that that aspect is addressed when it comes to GCCs in Kerala. See, about prediction, I think the growth will continue. Of course, there is a lot of doom and gloom about AI and new technologies coming into place. We have seen a lot of technology evolutions over the last 30, 40 years, maybe even more. And every turn, the talent needs to reskill and be prepared for the next set of activities, right? As long as our talent is willing to learn and reskill themselves, there will be new and new opportunities coming out for work. Some of the old effort will go away, but I believe new kind of work will emerge over a period of time, and I think we will continue to be the GCC capital of the world.
Excellent. Well, on that note, I'd like to open it up for a few audience questions. We have 3 minutes, so possibly 1 or 2 questions.